I'm Brian Silva, a golf course architect, and I've been working at Maketewah for, oh boy, I don't know how long it's been, over a decade. The first thing we did was the short game area on one of what I think is the coolest pieces of property I've ever put a short game area on. Then we came back 4 or 5 years later and reworked the green bunkers, lowered some of the bunkers so that the greens appeared to sit up a little higher in the landscape and the bunkers lower, kind of that high green, low surround setup that most of the traditional vintage architects practiced in the era of the golden age of design. And now we're involved in doing the fairway bunkers. I think it'll be the biggest effect on the golf course because it changes the flow and locations of fairways, although we've worked really hard to make fairways wider than they were before. So they're wider now with the bunkers to give people alternate routes. What had happened at Maketewah is really incredibly similar to what had happened to the vast majority of courses of its vintage. With the more heavy tree planting, the strategy became hit it down the middle and keep it out of the trees. And that's not really strategy. The essence of strategic design is multiple routes. We found some old aerials that found that the golf course was more liberally bunkered in the fairways at one time. And that's something that we should try to head towards. What we're trying to instill in Maketewah is alternate routes, a risky side and a safe side. And then we've had a lot of fun on a couple holes, making some fairly significant alterations to both the 3rd hole and the 11th hole. Early on in my visits to Maketewah, I walked the course a lot. And when I was walking 11 one day, I was in a little wooded section on the left of 11, and there appeared to be a series of bunkers that were now disguised by their setting in trees. And when I kept walking towards the green from there, it kind of felt to me like the hole was originally designed as a drivable par 4. And as I saw the land more, a hole that allowed players to go directly for the green found its way onto my plan and were, I believe, restoring largely the original concept of the hole. And we've got bite-off bunkers on the left-hand side that frame a flat landing area. But if you can get your tee ball from the back tee, maybe 250 yards in the air, and you've got a good line on it, and there's a beautiful slope there that slopes perfectly down towards the green and with a little bit of downhill kick left to right, which will help direct your ball onto the green. I think it's turned into a hole that certainly has multiple routes of play and more excitement in its play, and the average and less than average golfers can continue to play the hole the way they've played it for the last 50 years, if that's the line that they want to take. And then on number 3, we decided that we wanted to shift the tees to the right there, and we wanted to do that for a couple of reasons. It was too sharp of a dog leg, but from where the tees were playing, a couple of the more forward tees almost completely blocked the view of the fairway. And if you hit it in the early portion of the fairway, you couldn't hit for the green because you were behind trees on the left side of the dog leg left. So we worked on it, and we came up with shifting the tees to the right. When we took down the trees and the brush to shift the tees to the right, we found an old tee. I think it turns out that we're partially restoring the original characteristics of play. I don't know why the tees got shifted to the left, but when they got shifted to the left, if you think of the championship tee as the first tee on the hole, the 3rd and 4th tees up on the hole completely blocked the view of the landing area. Trees were planted in the right rough on the hole in an area that should have been the major part of the fairway, and we're putting in a bit of a bite-off bunker in the left part of the fairway, and there's 40 yards of fairway to the right. So there's plenty of room for people to take the longer route. At the end of the day, what I'm really most proud of is the movement in the fairways that's imparted by bunkering and other features. I think it's this movement in fairways and their more than adequate width that really sets up the alternate routes of play and resulting strategy. Remember, Ben Hogan said golf is a game best played when you think one shot ahead. And I'm praying that even the average and less than average golfers will just think for a couple of seconds as they stand over the ball on the tee and say to themselves, how does this setup of the green instruct me which side of the fairway I should be on to have an easier approach shot? If people would just think a little bit and read a golf hole, they'll really enjoy the game a lot more. And I'm hoping that we've been able to inject strategy, multiple routes and angles, so they're able to read the golf holes and learn what is the easier route or the more risky route from tee to green.